What happens if, I don't know, I do this?
The diabolical and twisted anti-superhero drama The Boys presents a side of superheroes that presents a solid reality check on the side effects of superpowers. The superheroes portrayed in the series are not exactly a typical embodiment of good and purity, and they're led by Homelander, the most gruesome and demented among them all. This terrifying personality has insane superpowers to back up his whims and fancies, and his unpredictable and unstable nature make him even more dangerous. In this video, we'll dive deeper into his anatomical specifications and bring you some of the crazy physiological facts about Homelander. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. How did Homelander get his superpowers? Homelander is undeniably the most powerful superhero in the Boys universe, and only Soldier posed some challenges before him in terms of brute force. However, the secret behind his incredible powers is kept away from the public by the organization Vought International. Like many other superheroes in the show, Homelander was also injected with Compound V, a mysterious chemical that introduced certain changes in the body, such as the superpowers that he possessed. Homelander had a tragic childhood which was largely spent in a laboratory, where he was kept under observation after the administration of Compound V. The show suggests that Homelander was born from the semen of Soldier Boy, who was America's first and greatest superhero. He was raised in a laboratory and surrounded by scientists like Jonah Vogelbaum. He was put through extreme physical experiments to test the limits of his powers, and a tedious mental conditioning process was also conducted to strengthen his mind. In the comic books, it's revealed that Homelander was injected with Compound V in an embryonic stage, and his heat vision activated from stress when he was born, killing his mother and the nurses in the delivery room. Thus, he was a superhero even as a child, and some glimpses of his powers can be observed in his son as well. Of course, such a childhood also meant that Homelander developed some obvious psychological issues as he grew up. He's hungry for attention and thrives on validation, and when things don't go his way, he turns into an unpredictable maniac. How powerful is Homelander's superhuman brute strength? Homelander might have some of the most impressive superpowers that you'll ever come across, but one of his most impressive skills continues to be his super strength that keeps surprising the fans. He's the strongest superhero, even in terms of physical strength, and both Jonah Vogelbaum and Storefront have confirmed that there's simply no one stronger than him. Even when he was a child, Homelander once accidentally broke a woman's spine simply by hugging her too tight. Later, during his fights with criminals and terrorists, we've seen how he toys with them and flings them in the air like they're mere playthings. His punches are so brutally powerful that they can even impale someone if the impact is strong enough, and Homelander has often been seen tossing locked doors to one side effortlessly. His brute strength has been on display on countless occasions, but perhaps the most significant display of his powers was when he single-handedly fended off a combined attack by the likes of Soldier Boy, Butcher, and Huey. That too after Butcher and Huey had injected themselves with Compound V. Nothing describes his raw power better than the words of Madeline Stillwell, who said, "There isn't a weapon on Earth that they haven't thrown at him. They've all failed."
Oh my God.
Exploring Homelander's flight abilities and their implications. As one of the most powerful superheroes in the Boys universe, one of Homelander's most impressive superpowers is his ability to fly at great speeds. When he was looking for a missing translucent who had been kidnapped by the Boys, he reached speeds far in excess of modern fighter jets as he looked across the country. Besides, there's a couple of moments where he clearly outflies civilian aircrafts and jets for particular missions. Homelander can also soar in the air and remain static, although as is evident from the scene where he fails to save a flight full of people, he can't carry beyond a certain weight while he's in the air. His flying skills also point toward one of his other hidden superpowers, such as his heightened reflexes that work perfectly even when he's moving at such uncontrollable speeds. He never showed any signs of suffocation even when he soared above the lower atmosphere, and Homelander could also withstand extreme temperatures, such as the freezing surroundings of the outer atmosphere. These go on to show how durable and steady Homelander is, and his flying skills only turn out to be one of his finest weapons against his enemies. However, the scene where he fails to carry a hijacked aircraft to safety shows that there are some limitations to his carrying abilities while in flight. According to him, he requires a solid surface to stand on so that the true extent of his powers can be unleashed. Of course, it doesn't affect his powers like heat vision, which we saw when he destroyed an aircraft while he was still in flight.
I'm the upgrade.
fast is Homelander? When we think of super-fast superheroes in the boys' universe, the likes of A-Train come to mind, but Homelander isn't far behind. In fact, this twisted superhero can be deceptively quick in his flight, and we've already discussed how his extremely fast speeds are capable of keeping up with civilian aircrafts and even jet planes. His speed on the ground is also quite impressive, and he was capable of breaking the sound barrier even as a child. We can only imagine how much his speed has increased as he grew up. His reflexes are so fast that he can dodge bullets fired at him from close quarters, although even if the bullets hit him, they'd cause no damage. There are scenes where Homelander can be seen disarming multiple gunmen in the wink of an eye, and perhaps one of the best examples of his super speed can be observed when he saves Butcher from a blast that he triggered to take them both out. To react faster than a C4 blast time shows that Homelander is probably even faster than A-Train in the long run. Besides, just like A-Train, Homelander's movements are not always visible to the human eye, and he hardly makes a noise when he moves that fast. How does Homelander's heat vision work? Among all of Homelander's incredible powers, it's probably his heat vision that's the most lethal and the easiest to use for him. He projects highly concentrated energy beams from his eyes, and these rays of energy are powerful enough to cut through anything from steel to human body. His attacks on human opponents or even less powerful superheroes using his heat vision are quite gory, as the flesh and bones melt instantly when exposed to his heat vision. Homelander can control the intensity of these beams, and there are moments when he simply uses it as a last warning. Momentarily, before emitting the rays of energy, his eyes turn into a glaring red, which is enough to scare away many of his opponents into submission. The effectiveness of his heat vision is also evident from the way he destroyed an entire aircraft instantly, and it's also quite clear that Homelander can use his heat vision even when he's in flight. Although his heat vision's been effective against certain superheroes, there have been others like Soldier Boy who could withstand his energy blast. Even Butcher, under the influence of a Compound V variant, was simply thrown backward upon impact with Homelander's heat vision. A higher dose of heat vision can still cause damage, but that also requires more time and exhausts Homelander to some extent. One of the iconic scenes during his flight with Billy Butcher is when Butcher and Homelander's heat vision clashes with each other, and it also goes on to show that while Butcher is invincible with his heat vision, certain powerful superheroes are quite safe from its fatal impact.
Everything alright, sir?
Does Homelander possess superhuman hearing? The auditory awareness possessed by Homelander makes him a deadly adversary, because he can make use of his super hearing abilities to detect a lot of things in his surroundings. For starters, Homelander can detect the slightest of sounds from miles away, and his hearing is so acute that he can hear a person's heartbeat and blood pressure as well. As you may know, a person's heartbeat or his blood pressure tells a lot about the person's intentions, or whether or not he's anxious or fearful in front of Homelander. Stan Edgar, the man who dared to speak back to Homelander and put him in his place, probably shows no signs of weakness in his heartbeat while interacting with the twisted superhero. This makes Homelander somewhat wary of him in the initial moments. There are several moments where Homelander used his hearing abilities to spy on people such as Stan Edgar or the mayor of Baltimore, because he can easily hear them through the walls. What makes his super hearing more effective is that he can still hear clearly when exposed to high-frequency noise, which can be disturbing for other superheroes. With such exceptional hearing abilities for himself, it's not entirely surprising that Homelander brutally killed the poor blind fellow who wanted to join the Seven based on his hearing abilities alone.
William Butcher. I can smell him all over you. You really will do anything to hurt me, won't you?
How strong are Homelander's smelling powers? Homelander wouldn't be such a complete superhero if all his senses weren't heightened to superhuman levels. Besides his hearing and vision, even his superhuman smelling abilities keep him ahead in the race. One of the most terrifying moments for superhero Queen Maeve was when Homelander told her that he could smell William Butcher all over her. The hidden relationship wasn't a secret for the psycho superhero who could detect all the plans against him with such heightened senses. Besides, much like hearing a person's heartbeat and blood pressure, even smelling the hormones reveals a lot about them. Homelander was able to know that Starlight and Huey were nervous in front of him because he detected an increase in their adrenaline hormone by smell alone. Other than using this power against people, Homelander also used his smelling abilities to detect explosives and track down certain criminals when required. Imagine the best of sniffer dogs with superhuman powers and several other abilities, and there you have it. Homelander, the Mad Dog superhero. Can Homelander survive in space? Yes, he can, and this is probably the biggest certificate of his flying prowess. During a conversation with Stan Edgar, Homelander told him about the wonderful view of New York City from space, which clearly implied that he'd flown beyond the atmosphere of the Earth. It's one thing to fly in rarefied air where the jet planes fly, and it's a completely different game when you consider a flight in the vacuum of space. Not only can Homelander survive in space, but he can successfully fly there at will and come back without being troubled whatsoever. This also makes us wonder if Homelander needs to breathe at all, all, and even if he does, he can probably hold his breath for an unusually long time if needed. Besides, the uncontrolled solar radiation and harsh cold temperatures also can't trouble him, as Homelander doesn't even require a specialized suit to fly into space. Does Homelander possess regenerative abilities? You can hardly call someone a true superhero if the body can't undergo the damage done to them. Homelander, as the strongest superheroes ever, has a very powerful healing factor, and this means that even when his opponents gain a momentary victory, he's soon back to fight them again. There are several moments in the show and in the comic books when Homelander sustains some serious injuries, and he's still back in his own elements. The fight against Butcher and Soldier Boy leaves him with a cut on his face, and Queen Maeve even stabs him with a metal rod, but Homelander recovers from these injuries quite fast and effectively. It's quite likely that his body repairs damaged cells as well, and his regenerative skills can be credited to his genetic superiority and modifications made by Vought over the years. We're yet to find out the true extent of his healing abilities, but it's quite possible that he can be revived from a near-death situation because of these superpowers, and it'll take a complete and clean death to take him out permanently. Does Homelander age normally? One of Homelander's lesser-known superpowers is his aging process, which is a lot slower than regular humans. Although this hasn't really been explored at length in the show, it's quite evident that the superhero shows no signs of aging. His exact date of birth isn't known, but he's presumed to have been born before the 90s, which makes the character younger than the actor who plays the role. However, even though Homelander has been an adult for the past decades, his aging process has definitely been slower than usual. Nothing from his reflexes to his speed or powers has been affected, and it's safe to assume that without any external force, he'll remain the same way for a very long time before Vought finds someone appropriate to replace him. How powerful is Homelander's skin and durability? It's Translucent who comes to mind because of his near-impenetrable outer skin. However, Homelander is also similarly durable, and even his skin can't be pierced by any normal means. Bullets and explosions leave no impact on his skin, and we see him emerge without a scratch from the most violent confrontations. Yeah, there have been times when we've seen him bleed, but it takes someone like Soldier Boy or a superpowered Butcher to inflict any significant damage on him. Even then, his healing abilities would treat the damaged area in no time. We've also observed that his impenetrable skin is immune to all kinds of energy ray attacks as well, and even Butcher's heat vision doesn't damage his skin. Is Homelander gifted with a supreme memory? Being a superhero gifted with superpowers is one thing, and having an insane memory to back it up enhances it significantly. Homelander has a photographic memory, and he remembers every single event from his past quite accurately. Yeah, his childhood memories remain a little bit foggy because of all the experimentation that he was subjected to, but his accurate recollection of every minute details of his adult life, no matter how insignificant, show the true powers of his superhuman memory. Since someone like Homelander comes across numerous individuals and each day of his life is eventful, it's quite handy to have a memory that remembers every single detail perfectly. Exploring his agility and fast reflexes. We've already discussed about his super speed and how Homelander gets things done in the wink of an eye. However, speed wouldn't have been so effective without his insane reflexes that always keep him one step ahead of his opponents. From evading bullets and other forms of attacks to moving before human eyes can even detect his presence, making the deadly superhero that he is. Even when it comes to his agility, Homelander is extremely agile and flexible, which allows him to perform various acrobatic maneuvers effortlessly. He can react instantly to any threat, and backed up with his super speed, is almost a case of too hard to catch, let alone kill. Is Homelander immune to every disease? Well, we're yet to come across an event where Homelander falls sick or is subject to any diseases, viral or bacterial. Due to his superstructure and build, it's quite likely that Homelander has immunity to every known disease in the world. Even toxins can do little damage to his body because of his powerful healing abilities, and thus any attempt to poison him would result in failure. Whether or not this is because of any chemical administration by Vought or because of his genetic linkage to Soldier Boy is not revealed in the show, but he does stand strong above all such problems that might torment a regular human. Why is Homelander's muscle and bone density so unique? Homelander is powered by insane muscle and bone density, and it's one of the reasons behind his abnormal durability. His bones are a lot denser and stronger, which allow him to absorb the impact of the strongest of blows with no damage or fracture. Even his muscles are considerably denser, and this also contributes significantly to his overall strength. Homelander never experiences fatigue or cramps in his muscles, no matter the amount of exhaustion that he's subjected to, and his unique bone and muscle density is a silent contributor to his superhero existence. How does his X-ray vision work? What makes Homelander so dangerous is the fact that there's simply no hiding from him. There are plenty of instances where miscreants or those plotting against him try to hide from him, but in vain. His X-ray vision is extremely effective and is able to see through almost every material. That being said, there's a drawback in his X-ray vision that was exposed by the boys when they killed Translucent, a superhero member of the Seven. They hid his body in a zinc container, and as it turned out, Homelander can't see through zinc. However, armed with his other super senses that we've discussed, the demented superhero is capable of masking his weakness by making use of the other superpowers. Does Homelander have a superhuman metabolism? If someone had to fly around and run around at speeds greater than a jet plane, you can imagine the caloric requirements of that individual. However, Homelander is beyond the regular norms in this regard as well, and he doesn't need a regular nourishment like other humans. His metabolism can probably be manipulated as per his requirements, and if it is required, he can go without any food for extended periods of time. The secret behind his sustained energy is hidden in his body, which can adapt to all circumstances, and we can only assume that he can stock up on the calories and proteins when he has the luxury of doing so. That being said, breast milk still remains one of his weaknesses, and that's one nourishment that Homelander can't do without, it seems. What causes such a twisted personality in Homelander? We've already spoken about the psychotic tendencies of Homelander, which largely resulted from his traumatic childhood, where he was raised in isolation. He lacks empathy and fails to understand genuine human emotions and love because of his upbringing, and this is also a reason behind his immoral activities. He's extremely narcissistic, and Homelander has clear sadistic tendencies, which are obvious from his needlessly brutal and violent actions. He can be quite intelligent and cunning, although there are several instances where he lets his short-tempered nature get in the way. While his actions are not always thoughtful, he does have a tendency to act in such a way that his supremacy remains unchallenged. He thrives on blind public love, but the slightest signs of protest and outrage trigger him to lose his mind. Homelander is extremely arrogant, and he knows the true extent of his powers and invulnerabilities, which makes him even more dangerous. There is, however, a softer side to his character, where he longs for a maternal figure and love. This is also evident from his disturbing relationship dynamics. Also, it's worth noting that even though he hates how Butcher and his team are after the superheroes, there is a hint of respect as well, because a mere human can stand up to him simply with his wits and plans. So far, the boys have been largely about Homelander descending into madness, and we're intrigued to find out just how far his insanity will take him in the upcoming season. What makes Homelander such an expert manipulator? He might be a psychological mess himself, but Homelander is shrewd and cunning enough to make an impact on those he comes in contact with. There are two main categories of people that he interacts with: one who fear him and love him, and the others who try to stand up to him. The second group, including the likes of Butcher or Stan Edgar or Starlight, has often been directly involved in a verbal confrontation with Homelander. These moments show just how manipulative Homelander can be. He uses intimidation tactics to threaten his opponents subtly, and he also uses situations to his advantage to convince them at times. Those who think of Homelander as a brainless maniac and just a sack of raw power will be greatly mistaken, because underneath all that lies the master manipulator who can break the strongest of individuals. Is Homelander immortal? What are his potential weaknesses? Many are quick to point out that Homelander is the Superman in the boys' universe, but even Superman has his shares of weaknesses, does he not? Homelander might be a near-perfect superhero, but there are certain ways to pin him down, and of course, since we brought up the topic, he's certainly not more powerful than Superman in comparison. Although normal bullets, bombs, and other lethal weapons can do him no harm, there is a possibility that nuclear weapons can prove to be effective against him. This has been explored further in the comic books, where Homelander was kept in line for the first 18 years of his life by strapping a hydrogen bomb to his body as a threat. The overall threat of atomic weapons worked in keeping him in line, but the TV series version might be stronger than that as well. Soldier Boy seemed to be the only one in the show with any real chance of taking him out for good, and after administering himself with Compound V, even Billy Butcher fought valiantly against him, although he didn't seem powerful enough to kill him. Also, it's important to note that Homelander is certainly not immortal in the comic books, because he's eventually killed by Butcher after he goes rogue and attempts an attack on the US government. With our new season of The Boys coming up, we're excited to see Homelander in action yet again. Do let us know in the comments below about your thoughts on Homelander's incredible superpowers, and also tell us what you think fate has in store for the twisted superhero in the upcoming season. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.